It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games. Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
It's the best station, period.
Let's be honest. These guys have the best job on the planet.
You come to work in a frickin' bathrobe?
So if you're out there working hard, you should also expect your radio hosts to put in an honest day's work. So of course, Jake and Ben are live at 5 with the biggest headlines and the best analysis in Utah. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5. The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time for Live at 5, brought to you by our friends at Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 1-855-TRAJAN-1, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Ben, the biggest story of the day today. Of course, the NBA playoffs. Quick tease, biggest story tomorrow might be the Bear tourney appearing right here on this show.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. But today, Ben, the playoffs, not only games tonight, but games last night. We've talked a lot already today about Donovan Mitchell and his shortcomings against the Pistons. Cavs dropped game one of that series in Detroit, 111-101 last night. How much of a chance do you give the Cavs in this series?
I'd still say it's probably 70-30 for the Pistons. Had the Cavs won the first game, I would have said maybe 60-40 for the Cavs. So, you know, the
that big of a swing based on game one?
You don't play that many games is the truth. I know. It's just the control of the series changes really rapidly. And if I think you had ignited a spark under the Cavaliers and kind of put the Pistons behind the eight ball once again, where they're always fighting uphill. I think they said yesterday night on the game, this is the first time other than in a closeout game, which, happened in Game 7 against the Magic, so the series is technically over. This is the first time the Pistons have had a series lead in the playoffs since 2008. It was 18 years ago since they last had a playoff series lead. Now, they don't make the playoffs every year.
How many times did they make the playoffs in that span?
But regardless, they're never playing from ahead. So this was why I think it does give them a real advantage. A, they're just the better team. And B, now they have an advantage, and Cleveland's going to have to try and make it up. And I don't have a lot of faith in them there. And then, as we talked about before the Rudy Gobert Nikola Jokic matchup, what would that matchup do for Rudy's legacy? And I thought maybe if the Timberwolves had lost that series, we might be starting to, put Rudy out to pasture. And he's kind of revitalized himself, and now he's being talked about as, one of the better centers still remaining in the NBA. I'll be curious what Donovan Mitchell's legacy is if the Cavaliers lose this, because their championship window is rapidly closing because you get more expensive every year. Players get a little bit worse. James Harden's not getting better. They're making trades to try and keep the boat afloat, different one than Diana Rossini, and it's not getting better. It's not improving. So I think this is going to continue to hurt his legacy if they lose this series.
Yeah,
obviously
they're going to trade him.
There's a chance they do.
I mean, we saw the reports come out before the end of the regular season that they would consider trading him. I think that is very real.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Cleveland eventually does a whole reboot or they just try to reshuffle some things, but I would believe that because I think the potential of the Cavs has capped out, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't think this team is going to get better than they are this year. I don't know how good they're going to be. Again, I said 70-30, I think, in favor of the Pistons. 30% still a very realistic chance to win a series, and you're always one injury away from this thing really swinging in the Cavaliers' favor. And because I think the Pistons are particularly vulnerable to losing any one piece that would really change this series, whether that's Tobias Harris, you really hope it's not Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, who you've talked about and how impactful he is, even Asar Thompson. You lose any of those guys for a couple of games, and I think the Cavs can win this series. So you've got to be careful there. But if this remains, the rosters and they're healthy, I think the Pistons win, and I think the Cavaliers go into the offseason wondering, is it over? That's a scary spot to be in.
The other game last night, the Thunder beat the Lakers 108-90, and it really felt like the Thunder were just playing with their food. I mean, Shea only took 15 shots last night.
And J-Dub didn't play. So, yeah, they just went in casually, and they were up 9 most of the game. It got down to 6 a couple of times. And then midway through the third, they just absolutely flipped the switch and just decided, okay, we're clamping down. Austin Reeves isn't going to be able to get the ball across half court. If Rui Hachimura can beat us, I guess he'll have to. And LeBron's not going to do it. AR's not going to do it. Jake LaRavia is probably not going to do it. So we'll just get a bunch of turnovers and go get layups and be fine.
Not LaRavia?
And that's exactly what happened. And then by the time you tuned back in, it was a 20-point game if you were just kind of casually watching. So, no, it was a lousy game. It's going to be a lousy series. And I think this is what it's going to look like throughout. And I think it would have probably with or without Luka.
Well, I not according to LeBron. But if Luka were tougher, he'd be playing and they'd be in this series.
That's at least according to Ric Flair. Let me see if I can pull up the
By the
Nature
way,
Boys tweet.
Speaking of live at 5, literally the Knicks and the Pacers just tipped off. That just happened.
Yeah.
Game number 2 here. New York with a 1-0 lead in the series over Philadelphia. No Joel Embiid tonight for the Sixers. And I think they just had Paul George do the tip.
It's a bad sign.
They don't think Drummond can jump?
Here's Ric Flair's tweet. Luka, at Luka Doncic, please get in the game. Take a shot of cortisone and deal with the pain. They're paying you $50 million a year and you're not there. WTF, I hope Jeannie Buss trades you next year. Nobody wants a lame duck on their team. So Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, coming out hot as always. Really mad at Luka.
But he does have some credibility there.
Of taking injections to get on the mat?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that dude
probably done that a lot.
Lived with the needle in his arm as a professional wrestler.
And he's 106. So, I mean, how bad could it be? Toughen up, Luka. Ric Flair just called you out, bro.
You know what? We talk so much about LeBron's perspective on this, almost exclusively, is the truth since this trade went down. And that was such a crazy story. And whether or not Clutch wanted it and how they had to hide it from LeBron and all these different things to get this deal. What do you think Luka's view is on all of this? I think there's a way to read this also where Luka, while I fully believe he has a hamstring injury, we saw how frustrated he was when it happened. Whatever his approach is to getting back on the floor here, whether you think it's full bore or not, don't you think there's probably a real chapter in Luka's world where he's just saying all right, let's get this chapter wrapped up with LeBron so we can start the Luka Lakers and it can just be my team and we can move forward? Because whatever we're doing now is ridiculous, and LeBron making $50 million, as beloved as LeBron is not conducive to winning a championship.
Probably. I'm sure that LeBron is obnoxious in the locker room as he is not in the locker room. So sure, you could talk me into that. However, don't you get the impression that Luka really doesn't care about anything?
Yeah, that's also maybe
He doesn't care about being in shape, doesn't care about being a good teammate, doesn't care where he's playing. I mean, even you now see the stories. You still see the stories where he would rather be playing in Dallas. Mm-hmm. I just don't. He's kind of the not care player. I don't know what he cares about. He didn't fly to Serbia to see his newborn son. He flew to Madrid.
He might be the John Daly of NBA players.
Okay,
more natural talent than maybe anybody else in the league. I mean, Luka's natural talent is absurd.
Offensive talent, sure.
Huge. He could play defense if he wanted to. He doesn't care. Doesn't want to try.
Kind of fat.
Sure, get in shape and play. You're bigger and stronger than everybody, and you're so smart. You could cut off every angle. You would know where to be if you wanted to. I don't think he cares.
Well, vodka has calories, Ben.
Sure.
We can't ask.
But again, to the point of just natural skill, I'm not sure there is anybody better than Luka in the NBA. Honestly, he can be an absolute dynamite shooter, unreal passing, reads the game as well as anybody in the league, scores at the rim, whatever he wants to do. He doesn't try that hard. And that was John Daly. Everyone just said John's maybe the most naturally skilled golfer on the planet. But because of that, he didn't have to work that hard. And had he had to work as hard as Tiger or some of these other guys, he could have been in the conversation as the greatest of all time. And I wonder if, honestly, Luka, the game has come so easy to him since he was probably 12 or 13 years old. He just never developed that how do I work hard muscle.
On a similar note, Ben, and I don't if you haven't seen this, don't look it up, okay? The Athletic has released or has done their NBA player survey, and they've released the list of the league's most overrated players based on 81 NBA player votes.
Okay.
Have you seen this yet?
I have not seen the results.
Oh, good,
I know
good,
this
good.
came out. I saw the tweet.
All right. Who do you think is number one? With 12.3% of the vote.
Rudy always wins this, but I don't think Rudy matters enough to win this now. But he always gets votes. Most overrated player in the
I'll give you a
NBA.
hint. Rudy's 2. Tied for a second
Poor Rudy.
at 8.6%.
Overrated players. I honestly don't know. Paolo?
I'll give you a hint. Kevin Durant really agrees with this.
Oh, well, it can't be Jabari Smith because he doesn't matter enough, which means it has to be Alperen Şengün.
Bingo. 12 point Şengün with 12.3%.
Well, good to know Kevin voted in the anonymous poll.
Followed by Rudy at 8.6%, but Rudy is tied with somebody.
Okay, who's he tied with?
A guard.
Not Donovan?
Not
that
Donovan.
That would have been really funny.
Not Donovan.
Who is it?
A guard who was just traded.
And not Luka.
Traded midseason.
James Harden?
Trae Young.
Trae Young. Oh, yeah. Well, that's totally fair.
Karl Anthony Towns is next at 7.4%. You mentioned Paolo. He's tied with Ja Morant at 4.9%. There are 4 players tied at 3.7%, Ben. Denny Avdia, Scotty Barnes, Luka Doncic, and Pascal Siakam. And then 6 players with 2.5%, which means what? They just got 1 vote?
Yeah, probably.
Dylan Brooks, Tyrese Halliburton, Tyler Hero, Evan Mobley, Brandon Pajemski, and Domantas Sabonis.
I think Cody Williams got a vote. I think that was one thing I did see.
He's not on this list.
You know who voted for him? Absolutely his brother. That's absolutely a funny thing
like
to have
a joke?
an absolute joke on your brother, right? That comes out and Cody says, who voted for me? And his brother sends him the article. That absolutely has to be what happened. Because who else thinks Cody Williams? No one thinks about Cody Williams.
Yeah, nobody's going to put him
No
on
one's going to
there.
say he's overrated. He's not rated.
Right.
How do you be overrated if you're not rated? No, that's very funny. Yeah, Alperen Şengün's got to put up or shut up. You know, they had a really bad first-round series, and he was getting kind of anointed as one of the great players in the league. Not top 5, but one of the better players in the NBA, certainly amongst the young guys. So that'll be interesting to see, I guess, how that bears out. Poor Rudy continues to, I think, somehow be underrated, maybe because he's on that list.
Players don't like him because he gets paid and doesn't play offense.
He's not a skilled player. Yeah, he's not a high-skill player. He's a high-impact player.
Because most players have the mentality that Jabari Parker had, where I don't get paid to play defense. Mm-hmm. And Rudy does get paid to play defense, and other players resent it. I'm surprised on the Şengün one, though, because unlike Rudy, Şengün is super skilled.
Yeah, right.
But maybe not skilled in the places where normal NBA players value. He's not a great outside shooter.
Yeah, there also could be some European stuff here. Turkey, Europe?
Turkey is Europe and Asia, technically.
Okay. But there could be some bias against foreign players.
What about Denny Avdia?
Yeah.
Thank you. On there. I thought he was pretty universally celebrated this year.
And underrated.
Yeah.
Still probably a little underrated. So, no, I think that's a bad choice. Again, I will tell you, look, players know a lot, and they know more about basketball than I do. And if you ever actually hear basketball players break down like game plans, you'll be like, oh, they know so much more than I will ever know. It's their life. They run through practice all day and all the lingo and all the different strategies, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think they're always great at diagnosing who the best basketball player is or most underrated.
Did you see that hard foul that Karl Anthony Towns just took?
I did.
That's the last time he's going to the basketball game.
Kelly Oubre just took him out.
Got a flagrant, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was after he elbowed your guy in the throat. Who's the center for the Sixers?
Drummond?
Drummond. He elbowed Drummond in the throat.
How dare he?
Mm-hmm.
There should be
drive.
payback.
On the same drive.
Karl Anthony Towns has a little tear in his eye.
I don't know. I just know he has a big head.
Speaking of Kelly Oubre.
That was Kelly Oubre talking about Jalen Brunson and why he's hard to guard.
Do we think he actually meant physically? Because Jalen Brunson has an absolute dome piece. He has a huge head.
Can we play the entire clip, Christian? Because he's saying the way that he waves his head around draws a lot of calls. So he uses his head to his advantage.
Oh, that makes sense.
He flops that head around there and makes him tough to guard.
You don't get a lot of charges called for not a headbutt, but the swipe through with your head is a really good way to clear space. And I believe that with Jalen Brunson. He's got a big head. He puts it down. Who you know else? Huge head? Isaiah Collier. He could get better.
Oh,
at that.
he's got a huge head.
Huge head. He's got just exaggerated features in general.
How much do you think that noggin weighs?
Oof. 22 pounds.
I was going to say like 36.
That's pretty light.
22's light?
Really? Google that, Ben. How much is the average?
Psychopath?
Is
Why
the
do you
average
know what a
human
head weighs?
Yeah, that's a good point. Christian's like,
The average adult human head weighs 10 to 12 pounds.
yeah, what are you talking about, Christian?
I don't know.
Who are you decapitating?
I work with Jake Scott, you know.
Different
But
type of big head.
I have a big head? No, I bet Jalen Brunson's legit weighs 20 pounds. I'm
Yeah.
with you there.
Big brain.
Big skull?
Big skull.
Big skull. All right, we teased this and we got bumped by breaking Diana Rossini news, but I do actually think we can scrape a productive college sports conversation out of our exercise. Sociopath or truth teller.
Okay. Spurs also in action tonight after this game.
We can get to that coming up next. Yeah, about to go 0-2. Take that,
That would
Ben.
be great. I'll take that.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Not only do these guys give you the best Jazz coverage in the market, they've got you covered with the Mammoth, the Cougars, the Utes, and the Aggies. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Right now, the Sixers have a 3-point lead over the Knicks, 17-14.
They are really hammering Karl Anthony Towns every chance they get.
Well, that's what you do when you play Andre Drummond.
Just absolutely hammer.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah, hammer the opposing team's star, one of their stars.
He's like Jalen Duren, but fat and clumsy.
Slow-footed.
So you know what you do? You go out and hammer Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah, there you go. So playoff action already underway in New York with the Knicks with a 1-0 series lead. You mentioned the T-Wolves and the Spurs. That game starts at 7:30. All right, Ben, the new, system, condition of college sports, of course, is always a big topic on the show because college sports are a big topic here in this market. And actually, I think Utah is a pretty interesting petri dish on different levels of programs with different resources and how to implement those. I mean, not only BYU and Utah, but Utah State and even going down to Christian's T-Birds and Weber State and all of that. We love our college sports around here, and they're very well supported, some better than others. Indiana wins the national title last year.
Yeah.
They got a big quarterback recruit, if you had not heard, who's now currently a Raider.
Mendoza.
And he came from
Cal.
He came from Cal. So Mark Cuban, and we'll play his comments here. He tells the story, and here's the exercise. Is Mark Cuban making this about him and taking credit, or is he a truth teller? I'm curious to your thoughts. All right, play it.
Before, when we were losing and I was in the suite with the AD, Scott Dozin, it all started really at the Notre Dame playoff game the year before when we were losing and I was in the suite with the AD, Scott Dozin, and Pam Winton. We sucked, right? We were getting blown out from the beginning. First thing I said to Scott was, well, at least this year you're not having to look for another football coach, because that was kind of a time-honored tradition at Indiana, always looking for a football coach. And so he's like, yeah, that's the positive. And then we started talking. And he's like, we've got this quarterback that we really, really like, that we think would be great. Just need a little bit more. I'm like, how much is a little bit? And so he told me, and I'm like, okay, we're on a roll. I'll put up the money to get this quarterback. I knew Fernando's brother, who already was on the team because he was a Heat fan and he would sit behind the Miami bench. And when I would come to go to Mavs Heat games, he was like, oh, yeah, I go to IU and da-da-da-da-da. So we met. And so I'm like, okay, I'll put up the money and we can go get Fernando, and the rest is history.
How much did they need?
They needed enough.
Mark Cuban won a national
Mark
championship.
Cuban was the starting quarterback
Basically.
for the Hoosiers in their national title run.
They never would have even sniffed it had Mark Cuban not stepped in. So I guess, I kind of joked about the, making it about him, a sociopath thing. And I do think Mark doesn't hate the attention.
Correct.
But is it more just the reality? Like, you have to have a Mark Cuban to put you over the line. And by the way, I love it that Mark Cuban didn't give a dang dime to the Indiana football program until they made it to the playoff 2 years ago.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny.
That's where I would start. Is first of all, he said we sucked. Those are his words, not mine. In the same sentence, he said we were in the college football playoff going up against Notre Dame. Well, you weren't that bad.
Right.
Indiana was not that bad. That's why Curt Cignetti was the hot coach all of last offseason.
I think he was saying in defense of Mark that they sucked in that game.
In that game specifically.
Which they did.
But to your point, he was not the big investor until they were already winning. So this isn't like Mark has said, I see the vision here at Indiana football, because nobody did. And I think we can become a national champion. Now they have gotten there. Yes, he waited until they were at the end and gave them some money. Now, we have heard rumors about how much money they were spending, and Curt Cignetti has said it wasn't even close to the $30 million or whatever the rumor was that was floating around. But the way you got to that, because a lot of people said, how would Indiana ever have that much money? And you've mentioned this a few times, Jake, is that they have the biggest graduation base in all of any college in the university or in
something like
in
that
the country.
I'd have to look up the stat, but it's at very least in the Midwest.
Their alumni base is
like
enormous.
It's huge.
So no, they didn't need Mark Cuban, because I don't have the AD or whoever he is here's talking about, the school president that said, we've got this guy we really like, Scott Dolson, that we just need to go get this quarterback. We think we can be good. If Mark had said no, I fully suspect they would have gone to somebody else who would have said yes. Because apparently the rumor is, and I know Mark didn't say it there, Fernando Mendoza was getting $1.6 million at Cal, and they bumped it up to 2.6 to go to Indiana, which is not $8 million. And it's a lot, don't get me wrong, but I suspect Mark Cuban's not the only Indiana grad that can afford a $2.6 million check.
But that is the difference between Indiana going to the playoffs and Indiana being national champions. And the reason I think this is particularly interesting is because Indiana isn't a traditional power. So I think everybody is looking at the Hoosiers, including the Utes and the Cougs, and going, is it simply the alumni base? Is it simply that they hired the right football coach who knew what players to bring in and matching the price tag to the player? Like, if you could make a criticism of BYU basketball in their current spending spree, they've spent some big dough on some wrong players.
Yes.
Who was the guy 2 years ago that was the big deal who came in with Yegor and barely played?
Boscovich?
No. Mm-mm.
I honestly can't remember.
I shouldn't bring up. But anyway.
To the point where he doesn't even matter.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was a big-time recruit coming out of high school.
Staten. $1 million to go to BYU. Never played last year at BYU. That's the rumor, $1 million.
So, I mean, I think Indiana's interesting because we all get caught up on the total price tag, right? You know, if Kyle Whittingham's spending $50 million on the Michigan roster, do they automatically win the national championship? Not necessarily. There's still some nuance to it. But what is it that Indiana is doing now that puts them into the stratosphere with the elites? Because we all are, I shouldn't speak for you, I certainly assumed that as these budgets grew, the superpowers would only get stronger. Well, Indiana has never been a superpower. They're in a super league, but they've been in the Big Ten since, I don't know, the early 1900s. I don't know. When did the Big Ten form? I'm guessing that Indiana was an original member.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And they've never been good.
Correct.
So I don't know. I think it's a little more subtle than they spent the most money, because I don't think they did, but they didn't spend the least either, because we're talking about the alumni base. So is the secret sauce the coach and they just simply paid the right players? But
by the way, Kanan Catchings, by the way, is the name.
Kanan Catchings is exactly who I'm talking about. Thank you very much. You got to spend the dough on the right dudes, right? And if Indiana's done anything, they brought all those guys with Signetti from in North Carolina. Why am I going blank?
Yeah, the small school.
Yeah.
Here's where I get really skeptical about all of it, and where I wouldn't trust a coach as far as I could throw him. Is that why wouldn't the coach say, yeah, spend more money? What does he care?
Right. That's true.
So like here's the flaw. Give me a random head coach. I'm just not going to throw Kalani or Morgan under the bus, but whatever. What random? Troy Taylor goes to Stanford. Great example. No longer there, but yes, goes to Stanford and says, Andrew Luck, I need $2.6 million for the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get this guy, I think that's going to be a big difference for us. Fine, great. I'm not saying give it to him at all. I'm just saying, like, why would he not say that? Why would he not lie about it? What does it hurt him? Are you going to get fired because you got too much money in donations and didn't achieve? Potentially. But also, if you're a coach, you're going to get fired if you don't win. So if you feel like you need the guy to win, even if the guy doesn't work out, you were probably in a spot where your job was going to be on the line anyways, because head coaching jobs always are. Yeah, you just might as well go out if you're a head coach and say, I need this money. This is where the money's going to be spent, and I think this is going to be the difference for our team. I just would never trust what they have to say or who they're believing in. Now, good coaches can prove that they know how to win with the right guys. And Curt Cignetti has proven that he could win with Fernando Mendoza, and they just went and got the kid from TCU, Hoover.
Uh-huh.
So maybe he replicates it and you say, okay, this is a real quarterback whisperer and he knows how to win, and that's an A-plus thing. But a coach is always going to say they need more money for more players. I'm not sure that's kind of indicative of a coach having success or being a good coach. And to get back to, I guess, where we started here with Mark Cuban, she's like, you got to be careful about where you're giving money and who you're giving money to, because they're all going to tell you they want more. And if you're asking, which is where I got to this point of, is that the difference between, a championship team or not? I would say the answer is no, actually. The right player absolutely is. But just giving a quarterback, obviously $2.6 million doesn't guarantee you anything.
No, it does not. And maybe that brings us to what our friend Adam Rittenberg, who jumped on with us in the 4 o'clock hour of ESPN, said, that maybe player retention is way more important place to spend your money than going out and hitting the transfer portal.
Yeah. And you know what? When he was talking, before we even got to ask him about that, I was wondering the same thing.
Because, the big feather in Utah's cap, for example, is keeping the 2 quarterbacks and the running back.
Yeah.
Does that player retention get them to a conference title? Because, and this is where you were talking, kind of reminded me, but those players are good. Or at very least, what they're good at.
Yeah.
And you believe, I imagine if you're Morgan Scally, you believe you're able to win with them. Retaining Bear Bachmeier for BYU was probably worth every penny, because he can get you to the Big 12 title game. He was good enough to do that as a true dang freshman.
Yeah.
You got to hang on to that dude. And if you're, I don't want to pick on Utah State, but if the Bear was at Utah State, the Bear would be at a different program, right?
Uh-huh.
So how do you hang on to those guys? Kalani has said that the Bear has taken offers from all over the place.
Yeah.
So what do you do? How do you spend the money to retain the players that are going to get it done? Look at the myriad, this is even pre-NIL, of transfer quarterbacks Utah tried to land under Andy Ludwig that were just a disaster. Everybody thought Jake Bentley was going to be good. Starter at South Carolina, all this. Who was, BYU brings in Keaton Slovis.
Yeah.
Top-ranked quarterback of the transfer portal, Ben.
Yep.
Had a dynamic freshman season at USC, kind of. Did a whole lot of nothing.
You and I are quite skeptical of 24/7 rankings on 3 or whatever all the different ranking companies are. And I've adopted your perspective on that, certainly. You go back here and you look at the transfer portal rankings from 2025, because this was another question I asked Adam Rittenberg, which was, where did Indiana rank last year in their offseason rankings, and did they have a good offseason or not? And he couldn't remember, which means they weren't near the top. And that's not a knock on Adam. I couldn't find the story from last season. But if you go to 24/7, they said Indiana had the 25th best transfer portal class.
Yeah.
Did they?
I think they had the best because they landed the number 1 pick in the draft.
And they got a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
And then they went undefeated. So they did something right. So, yeah, along your lines where I do agree with you and where maybe I still am not willing to depart from my past of Utah getting Kendall Thompson or BYU.
Oh, Kendall Thompson, a good one.
BYU getting Keaton Slovis. These quarterbacks or any player that was supposed to step in and change the outcome of the team that season. I'm still just a little hit or miss on a lot of these transfers. I just still feel like, if they were exactly the right player, and look, there are still great players who leave in the transfer portal, obviously, but if they were so good, their original team usually would have fought like hell to keep them. And they likely prioritize spending the money somewhere else. Not always.
Unless they're from San Jose State.
Sure, yeah, exactly right. Or Utah State or Weber State. Or yes.
Apparently even Cal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure Weber State would have loved to have kept Jack Kelly. Wasn't going to work out for them.
You'd think.
They didn't have that opportunity.
This is just a wild world of college sports. I guess in all honesty, like most things, the most innovative strategies are going to be the ones that are going to win.
Yeah,
and maybe that's where Cignetti and Indiana come in. They had the secret sauce, so to speak.
Yeah, and the problem is with innovation, you can't predict it. You can try and create something, and if it doesn't work, it's not labeled as innovation. It's labeled as stupidity. And if you're trying to just mimic what the last guy did, if you're trying now to replicate what Indiana did, well, someone's going to be more innovative and move the step forward. It's just a moving goalpost. And I think that's where creativity probably really does start to factor in.
Your guy, Jordan Clarkson's in.
How's he doing?
I don't know. I think he just got in. It'll be interesting to see if he fist fights Brunson for the ball, though.
Okay. I did like that Jordan was always willing to fight opposing teams. I'm not sure I ever saw him fight his own teammates, but maybe. Yeah, it's a lot of shots.
Dude, Jordan Clarkson putting up his dukes was never trying to fight somebody.
No, of course not.
No,
but I don't remember anyone else putting up their dukes.
Nobody. He did that to be funny, which I really appreciate, honestly.
Jordan was funny?
Anybody who can be funny in that type of circumstances really got an admirable sense of humor, in my opinion. But no, at no point when Jordan put up the
real old fisticuffs, yeah. The bare knuckle. Was he going to go for it?
Never. Stay tuned. More Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Just doing it big,
Your home for the best sports radio for your afternoon drive is right here. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on the airways, talking sports. They got him made Jake's and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my.
Hey there, Jake and Ben. This is Ed from Ogden. And it looks like little Dr. Wacky Zacky has thrown down the gauntlet. So, picture this. It's halftime. The Hawks are down. Quinn comes barreling into the locker room and says this Jack Sparrow quote. Now, as long as you're just hanging there, pay attention. The only rules that really matter are these. What a man can do and what a man can't do. And that is why I hold a master's in make-believe, and you just have a little medical degree. Ball's in your court, Wacky Zacky.
Eb.
Shout out, Eb.
Good to hear from you, Eb.
What line delivery.
Amazing.
My goodness.
Well, didn't Wacky
Zacky,
said that Eb was an actor.
Yeah.
So I thought Eb did a pretty good job there. Not to mention he's hilarious.
Don't read his last name because we're not trying to out him, but...
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, rad. Oh, that's super cool.
We found you, Eb.
Shout out to Eb.
Shout out, Eb.
Shout out to Eb. But that was
Great
very
job.
good. Yeah. And by the way, encourage everybody, rule number 3 of the Jake and Ben show, if you have something to say, call in. We love the call-in feature on the KSL Sports app. We love to hear from you. We usually play some of the best in this particular segment. So make sure and keep those coming. We have another one from yesterday.
Yeah, I had to get to the sibling rivalry,
okay,
right? Because that is very important.
It's now an ongoing bit. Congratulations to Zach and Eb. You're now part of the show.
Yeah.
We had Nathan call in yesterday, too, because the NHL draft lottery was happening during the end of the show, and Nathan called in with some thoughts, so this is what he had to say.
This is for Jake and Ben. This is Nathan. The NHL just held their draft lottery, and they hold it live on TV. This is the second year they've done it in a row. What do you think about the NBA doing it? I think it would be a great idea, provide better entertainment than just having people sit up there and the picks being read off. I think seeing the lottery done live would be much better entertainment, and honestly, I think it helps with the calls that it was rigged. Am I right or wrong? What do you think?
Nathan, thank you for the call in. Well done. Yeah, it is harder for them to rig, so they're going to keep that thing behind closed doors, 100%.
Nathan, you're right and wrong, actually. The current format is not conducive to TV. So I don't know if people know this. I think we've talked about this on the show. I've never been in the lottery room. Sarah Todd has. Andy Larson has. I've talked to them about what the actual lottery room looks like. Sarah was there for the Victor Wembanyama draft. Mm-hmm. The Spurs won the top pick 4 times in a row. So they draft at the top. You know, they don't start at 14. They start at 1 and go up. So that's a little bit different. That's why the NBA likes this reveal. But the Spurs won the number 1 pick. And they say, okay, now the next lottery for the number 2 pick. And the Spurs won again. And they said, okay, they had to keep drawing over and over to get the second pick. And the Spurs won 4 times in a row.
So it was extra rigged.
To get Victor Wembanyama. But that's not good TV. So nobody wants to watch it. So the problem, where you're right, Nathan, is yes, it can be conducive to good TV like the NHL. However, their current format is not. Mm-hmm. And next year, when they move to this proposal, which they're going to vote on in 3 weeks from tomorrow, of the 3-2-1 format, which just includes 37 lottery balls, if I've done my math correctly, that will be more exciting. And I bet you it does go on TV.
Nah.
Hard to rig.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
No, I thought Tim Lacombe made a good point. You know, if David Copperfield can make a building disappear,
they can rig a lottery?
The NBA can rig a lottery on television.
Yep, they can.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up in the 6 o'clock hour right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.